Protests against Nupur Sharma's prophet remarks during a TV debate. Protests erupted in West Bengal's Howrah again, after which police fired tear gas to disperse the protesters. Police across the states have ramped up security in the sensitive zones. Several cities witnessed stone pelting and clashes. Protesters also blocked the road as well as the rail routes at multiple places. Train services disrupted. Heavy police deployment can be seen across cities to prevent further violent protests. Situation was so tense that the police resorted to using tear gas to disperse the crowd. After the demonstration took an ugly turn in Ranchi, internet services were snapped, Section 144 imposed in sensitive zones. Bengal's Howrah also witnessed suspension of internet services till Monday. Section 144 imposed for the next 3 days. In UP, security has been beefed up and additional police forces deployed. Meanwhile, UP cops have made 220 arrests in the violent protests that erupted across the state. Meanwhile, All India Minority Advocates Welfare Association has announced to fight the case of the people arrested for 1 rupee.
पुलिस और प्रशासन के सार्थक प्रयासों के बावजूद कुछ लोगों द्वारा जानबूझ के शांति व्यवस्था भंग करने के प्रयास किए गए। 109 लोगों की गिरफ्तारी विभिन्न जनपदों से की जा चुकी है, जिसमें से प्रमुख जनपद हैं सहारनपुर, अंबेडकर नगर, फिरोजाबाद, मुरादाबाद तथा प्रयागराज। जो भी सरकारी एवं प्राइवेट संपत्ति की क्षति पहुंची है, उसकी वसूली भी की जाएगी और इन व्यक्तियों के विरुद्ध जो गैंगस्टर एक्ट के तहत इनकी संपत्तियां भी जब्त की जाएंगी।
3-4 जनपदों में कुछ लोगों ने प्रयास किया शांति भंग करने का। ऐसे लोगों को चिन्हित करके उनके खिलाफ कड़ी कार्रवाई की जाएगी। जिन्होंने आगजनी तोड़फोड़ करने का प्रयास किया है, उनको चिन्हित करके उनके गैंगस्टर एक्ट के तहत कार्रवाई की जाएगी और उनसे इसकी पूरी भरपाई की जाएगी। मैं प्रदेश की जनता को आश्वस्त करता हूं कि कहीं भी जो कोई भी व्यक्ति कानून अपने हाथ में लेने का प्रयास करेगा, उसके खिलाफ कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई की जाएगी।
सरकार के इकबाल से उठ जाता है। और वो क्यों उठा? क्योंकि आप जब देश के भीतर आवाज उठती है तो आप उसको नजरअंदाज करते हो, उस आवाज को दबाते हो, विदेशों के आगे झुककर आप फिर कार्रवाई करते हो। तो उस वजह से भी सरकार के ऊपर लोगों का विश्वास उठता चला जा रहा है। सरकार विश्वास बनाए और जिन लोगों ने अपने हाथों में पत्थर उठाए हुए हैं, माफ कीजिएगा, आप तो उन्हीं लोगों के हाथों में खेल रहे हो जो पिछले 8 साल से इस देश में सौहार्द और शांति बिगाड़ने का षड्यंत्र रच रहे हैं।
देखिए, जो भी धरना प्रदर्शन हो रहे हैं, पीसफुल डेमोक्रेसी में पीसफुल प्रोटेस्ट हो सकते हैं, पर कोई भी अगर लॉ एंड ऑर्डर अगर व्यवस्था बिगड़ती है तो लॉ शुड कम डाउन हेविली ऑन सच सिचुएशंस, क्योंकि लॉ एंड ऑर्डर के ऊपर कुछ नहीं होता है। हम एक सेक्युलर नेशन है, उस नेशन के अंतर्गत एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के माध्यम से चल रहे हैं। रिलीजन कैन नॉट बी अबव लॉ एंड ऑर्डर।
All right, the prophet war is escalating and we'll get you the latest coming in from Howrah. Anila Singh of the Bharatiya Janata Party is now joining us. Anila Singh, I read one of the reports where the BJP wants the army's involvement. What's your stance at the moment?
I do not have any knowledge about it, so I won't be able to comment on that.
All right, so what's your first up reaction on all that is happening in Howrah for the moment?
I just have to say one thing, that violence, any type of violence or taking law in your hand is not the solution of anything. And we have got agencies, we have got a system, we have a judicial system in our country, and any law-abiding citizen of our country should follow that.
Absolutely. And what is your stance on spokespersons of political parties making inflammatory remarks?
I don't have to say anything on that.
But you're from the Bharatiya Janata Party and Nupur Sharma
So
was
what?
from the BJP.
Don't you know how the things have been taken by the political parties, not only Bharatiya Janata Party. So I'm not going to comment on that. If you want to take my reaction that whether violence should have happened or not, I've given you my reaction that nobody should take law in their hands.
The fact of the matter here, Anila Singh, is that the violence is taking place over the inflammatory remarks being made by Nupur Sharma, who belong to the BJP. Of course, the BJP has sacked Nupur Sharma now.
I think
suspended, I beg your pardon.
News channels should stop being judgmental and passing judgments. There are agencies, they know their jobs,
But
Let the agencies
where is the
do.
judgment over here when the fact of the matter, when there is just a fact being quoted? Why do you think these
So
these
you're not
protests
worried
are?
about the violence which is happening?
I'm very much worried.
Youngsters,
I'm
they
very
are
much
venturing
worried
the
as
wrong
much as
path.
you are. My
They
question
are
is to
picking-
you.
they are
My
pelting the
question is to
stones.
you. As a journalist, I pose questions to you, not the other way around. And hence, I'm asking you a question. Aren't you worried about the cause of
See,
this
I
violence?
am not here to comment what agencies have to do. I can only say, as I am a law-abiding citizen, the same thing I'll say that please do not venture the path of violence. Do not make your young children go on it. It is a very, 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 very devil path. So it is better that the agencies do the job. Stop your children pelting stones. That is not the option. Don't take law, because when agencies are going to take action, then victim card will be played. And that is not correct for the future of youngsters and for the country as well.
And what is your plea to the West Bengal administration? Because just look at the state of Howrah right now. Situation is quite out of control at the moment.
See, whether we talk about West Bengal, we talk about Jharkhand, whether we talk about Uttar Pradesh, whether we talk about Maharashtra, any of the states. See, we all are a country, and we are citizens of this great country. And I'm going to say one thing only. Please do not take law in your hand, because each and every state, they have got the agencies and they know their work, that what they have to do. Because violence is something I think no state government is going to tolerate.
And don't you think there should be no inflammatory remarks made by any political party spokesperson against any faith, any other religion? And wouldn't you say this would be a lesson served for the spokespersons of all political parties, not just yours, Anila Singh?
See, I am going to make comment on the violence which we saw yesterday on street. That is very, very unfortunate. I'm not going to comment on anything else. This is high time. Like, people should go and do their work. Students should go and do their studies.
That is fine.
And
I get your point, and you make a very compelling point, very, very compelling point against violence. But I failed to get your response on the inflammatory remarks that are being made by several political parties, not just yours.
Again, I'm going to say I'm not going to comment on the political parties here. But yesterday, what we observed, whole of the world observed it. That is very unfortunate. I'm from Uttar Pradesh, and at least I can say this thing very, very confidently. That Yogi Adityanath ji, as a chief minister, is not going to spare anyone who is going to take law in his or her hands.
Okay, leave it at that. And we are saying thanks for joining us on this broadcast. Anupam Mishra is now joining us from Kolkata. Anupam, of course, the Bharatiya Janata Party person refused to answer the question on inflammatory remarks, and it wasn't even posed to the BJP. It was posed across political parties as to, look what happens when such kind of remarks are made, especially in the media and mainstream media. While at it, we see the result of it right now. At the moment, now, as leaving the politics aside, what is the situation looking like?
Yeah, in fact, the situation in Howrah is, the reports are coming from Panchla area, where a clash happened between police and the protest, and the police, the heavy police deployment were there. Then suddenly police saw some gathering, and they, when they wanted to, when they confronted them, they started pelting stones, and then police had to resort for lathi charge initially. Then they had fired tear gas shells. So situation is still tense, but so far the national highway is smooth. The connectivity is smooth so far, but we have to see as the day progresses.
And the BJP has demanded additional forces to be deployed in Howrah. What are you picking up on that front?
See, BJP has demanded the deployment of army. In fact, the BJP spokesperson and Shubhendu Adhikari has tweeted yesterday that the situation, the deteriorating situation in Howrah demands deployment of army. So far, there is no question of army deployment by the state government. The state government is deploying rapid action force and local police stations over there. So the situation so far for the third consecutive day, Howrah is still tense. A few pockets, especially Ulubedia, Salaf, and Panchla, these areas are disturbed. And from the morning, there is one report of disturbance that is coming from Panchla area. Apart from that, the national highway, which we have seen thousands of people stuck for hours for the last consecutive days, still the operations on national highways is smooth. But we have to we have to see this situation as the day progresses, and the train services are also smooth. From yesterday around 9:30 p.m. Police deployment is there. Government is trying to restore the situation. The internet services has been suspended. Section 144 of CRPC has been imposed. So we'll have to see as the day progresses.
So it's a wait and watch as the day progresses. Now, my one question is on the tear gas that has been, fired by the police as well on the protesters. Were the protesters getting violent?
Yeah, obviously, what we have seen yesterday, they were pelting stones. They started pelting stones. Then police had to resort for lathi charge initially. Then they fired tear shells to restore the situation over there.
All right. Thanks, Anupam, for joining us with the latest details right there. We're getting a stock of the situation across the length and breadth of the country on the back of the inflammatory remark that has been made by the BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma, who's now suspended. And look at the protests, the profit war escalating across the country. And that was a stock of situation from Howrah. As the protests have turned violent in several parts of the country, Delhi police is now probing whether they were organic or whether orchestrated, or if social media had a role to play in any of these protests. With a PFI link now coming out as well, there are hints that the protests perhaps may have been planned. Here's a report.
Sudden countrywide protests punctuated by blazing fires, stone pelting and clashes. Police fired shots into the air in Ranchi as demonstrators turned violent. Parts of the Jharkhand capital placed under curfew a few hours later. Down south in Chikmagalur in Karnataka, the extremist Social Democratic Party of India led this protest against former BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma. And in Aurangabad in Maharashtra, the AIMIM held this demonstration. Organic or organized and politically motivated. Friday's protests over the comments on the prophet by two former BJP leaders are seen by some as planned and timed to create unrest.
मेरी अपील है कि जो भी ताकतें इस काम में लगी हुई हैं, उनके चक्रव्यूह में, उनके चंगुल से बाहर निकलें। उनकी जो साजिशें हैं, जो षड्यंत्र हैं, वो पूरा देश जानता है और वो भी महसूस करते हैं कि उनको मोहरा बना करके जिस तरह से देश के माहौल को खराब करने की कोशिश हो रही है।
In Delhi, the police are investigating these images that went viral across the country. Investigators suspect digital posters like these calling for a Friday shutdown could be part of the plan. Otherwise, there was no official call to Muslims to hold demonstrations they did after Jummah prayers.
अचानक नमाज के बाद जामा मस्जिद के चौक पर यानी गेट नंबर 1 पर नारे लगने शुरू हुए, लेकिन कौन लोग हैं ये अभी पता नहीं है। मेरे ख्याल में तो पुलिस पता लगाएगी कि उसको मालूम होगा कौन लोग थे, किन लोगों ने ये नारेबाजी की है। वैसे कोई किसी को पता ही नहीं था। मेरे ख्याल में पुलिस को भी कोई नॉलेज नहीं था ये कोई प्रदर्शन होने वाला है।
A sprawling conspiracy or the fury of a faith hurt by remarks made by a ruling party spokesperson. The violent underbelly of the protests gets under the political lens. Bureau Report, India Today.
Moments after Friday prayers, protests in almost coordinated fashion spread across not just in national capital but many cities like Ranchi, Kolkata, Hyderabad, Jammu and Kashmir and many more. The pan-India protests soon turn ugly. Stone throwing, arson, attack on vehicles, police personnel. All of that happened. Here's a report.
Moments after Friday prayers, the protest began. In an almost coordinated fashion, it spread across many states, many cities. The protests soon turned ugly. Stone throwing, arson, attack on vehicles. Police caught unaware. The violence in Ranchi was particularly nasty. As protesters went on a rampage, police lathi charged and opened fire to drive them away. One policeman was seriously injured in the clashes. A video accessed by India Today shows how police had least anticipated the protests. A Ranchi police officer is heard desperately asking for help and more forces. The protest spread across many UP cities. Arson was seen on the streets of Prayagraj as mobs burnt trucks, set bikes ablaze. The UP government had to rush additional forces to Prayagraj city. In West Bengal, mob went berserk and attacked the police station with stones, injuring many cops. The protests were particularly violent in Howrah, where police had to open fire.
I'm standing on a road which connects Howrah with Calcutta, and over here a while back there was protest. As you can see, there are marks of tires which were being burnt over here, and protests were happening on the entire Nupur Sharma issue. Now there's a deployment of the Howrah city police and of the RAF.
In Delhi, thousands protested at Jama Masjid immediately after Friday prayers, demanding the arrest of Nupur Sharma. Angry protests also erupted in Sholapur, Moradabad and Deoband. The intensity of the protest caught police and administration completely on the wrong foot. This despite reports that the Union Home Ministry had asked all states to be on extra vigil on Friday. Bureau Report, India Today.
Uproar over Prophet remarks spreads to more countries. Massive protests have erupted in Bangladesh over Nupur Sharma's comments on Prophet Muhammad during a TV debate. Thousands marched in Dhaka on Friday in protest against suspended BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma. After the Friday prayers, hundreds hit the streets near a mosque in downtown Dhaka, raising slogans against the Indian government and Prime Minister Modi. Protesters gave a call to gherav the Indian embassy on 16th of June. The protesters have also called for a boycott of Indian products. The race to Rajya Sabha saw big gains for both BJP and Congress in Rajasthan and Karnataka. In Karnataka, they secured a win, that is BJP, while Congress backed Rajasthan. Congress's Ajay Makan loses in Haryana and in Maharashtra. BJP backed 3 of 6 seats. In Karnataka, Nirmala Sitharaman, Jaggesh and Leher Singh won, while Congress backed 1 seat. In Rajasthan, the tables were turned. 3 seats for the Congress under Randeep Surjewala, Mukul Vasnik and Pramod Tiwari, 1 seat by the BJP. The prominent faces who lost out on these 2 states are BJP-backed candidate and media baron Subhash Chandra, who secured only 30 votes in Rajasthan, and in Karnataka, Devi Gowda's JDS failed to get even 1 seat. Counting was held up in 2 states, Haryana and Maharashtra, for over 8 hours amidst complaints of cross-voting and rules violations.
जैसा मैंने कहा पहले ही, तीनों सीटें जीतेंगे और गणित साफ था कि कांग्रेस के साथ में जो हमारे निर्दलीय साथी थे, बीटीपी के थे, सीपीएम के थे और सुभाष जी थे, तो जब सबको मालूम है कैलकुलेशन हम लोग 126 लोग हमारे साथ में हैं, तब मैं पूछना चाहूँगा बीजेपी ने क्यों उम्मीदवार खड़ा किया जब उनके पास पूरे वोट थे नहीं, तभी खड़ा क्यों किया? इसके मायने है कि वो हॉर्स ट्रेडिंग करना चाहते थे तो वो हो नहीं पाई उनकी, और बुरी तरह से उनको मुंगी खानी पड़ी.
It humbles me. It's an honor that the state has bestowed on me. I will have to continue serving the state as I did or even better in this term.
कर्नाटक में बड़े जीत मिला है, तीनों हमारा उम्मीदवार जीता है. इसके वजह से सभी को मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं. हम कितना अलर्ट किए थे उसके ज़्यादा वोट मिला है. उसके वजह से कौन हमको मदद किया वो लोगों को भी धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं. कुछ लोग देश हित ध्यान में रख करके वोट दिया है, बाहर पार्टी का लोग भी वोट दिया है। सभी को धन्यवाद है।
ये जीत है श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी जी, श्री राहुल गांधी के नेतृत्व की। ये जीत है अशोक गहलोत सरकार की। ये जीत है उन सारे कांग्रेस, इंडिपेंडेंट, बीटीपी, कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी, लोकदल और हमारे अन्य विधायक साथियों की, जिन्होंने कांग्रेस की नीतियों में विश्वास जताया। ये हार है उन सारी ताकतों की जो राजस्थान का स्वाभिमान वोट की मंडी में पैसों से खरीदना चाहते थे।
मैं ऐसे सब विधायकों का जिन्होंने भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कैंडिडेट श्री कृष्ण पवार जी और हमारे इंडिपेंडेंट कैंडिडेट श्री कार्तिकेय शर्मा जी, इन दोनों को चुना है और सफलता दिलाई है, ऐसे सभी विधायकों को मैं हृदय से धन्यवाद देता हूं। और ये एक प्रकार की हरियाणा की जनता की जीत है, लोकतंत्र की जीत है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि दोनों हमारे नए राज्यसभा के सदस्य राज्यसभा में जाकर के हरियाणा के हितों की पूरी चिंता करेंगे और हरियाणा के बारे में जो भी विषय है केंद्र सरकार के नाते से वहाँ सदन में उठाने की बात करेंगे।
आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में महाराष्ट्र की जनता ने भारतीय जनता पार्टी को पूर्ण बहुमत दिया था, लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी की पीठ में छुरा घोंपकर यहाँ पर एक अनैसर्गिक सरकार तैयार की गई। लेकिन आज के इस विजय ने ये दिखा दिया कि अंतर विरोध से भरी हुई सरकार कैसे चलती है।
Slipping to a break when we